to the critics, my words are like physics, a force that they can't stop. They just don't get it, I think they forget I'm not done till I'm on top. I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. I believe we can write our story.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, Ohio, Kumbawa, half a day, all of the greetings. It's Gary once again, Wise Leadership Solutions, Words from the Wise, coming at you today with another exciting guest. I got a brother today that served in the United States Navy with me. Him and I crossed paths multiple times in Japan. And really, it was my time when I was with the 7th Fleet Staff up with the Blue Ridge. He was at Naval Security Forces over in Yokosuka. So let me introduce him to the stage, Mr. John Lukosis. What's up, bro?
How's it going, man? Long time. How you been?
You know what, brother? I'm doing good, man. I'm tired. We did a drill competition yesterday. My voice is raw from yelling for those kids. It's good. How are you doing?
Pretty good, man. I saw that. Yeah, it looks like you're keeping busy after retirement. That's awesome.
I
Yeah.
I am, and so I've got a son who's now 17. He's a senior. And when I retired from the Navy, he was going into his freshman year. So strategically, right, I was kind of thinking a good time to jump out would be when he's going into high school, get him somewhere because he moved so many places, right, as a kid. And ROTC just kind of fit because I could be embedded in the school and make sure that, God forbid, something goes sideways, I'm close enough to be available. And also to go from Dodea schools to public education was kind of a trip too, right? Like, you know how that goes. John, are you there?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It was in and out, but I got you, man.
Brother, I don't know that we're gonna want to do this, dog. I think if the internet's so sketchy, it's gonna kill us. We're gonna be constantly trying to catch up with each other.
Okay. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's my signal. I don't. Now it looks good, but I don't know.
Okay, let's give it a shot, man. Let's roll. So, John, where were you originally from? Because leukosis, I was looking at your email handle, right? I was like, okay. I was trying to figure out like what's the background of the last name leukosis, and I'm just curious, what's that? Where's your family name from?
So family names from Lithuania,
Okay,
hence the SUS. So if it was SOS, that's Greek. So
okay,
Lithuania is SUS. So but I'm from Illinois and Mesa, Arizona. So it's kind of weird. A lot of Lithuanians migrated back in the day to Chicago or Illinois. And
mhm.
then eventually my parents then moved to Arizona. So I joined the Navy from Mesa, Arizona. Yeah.
Where is Mesa actually? Is that because I lived in Phoenix? I've got
Yeah, it's
family
out.
down south.
Yeah, it's outside of Phoenix.
Okay.
So it's very near, yeah, close to Phoenix.
How old were you when you moved to Arizona from Illinois?
So I moved, I think, so I moved for kindergarten to Arizona and then did kindergarten to 6th grade in Arizona and then moved to Illinois from 6th grade to freshman year. And then Arizona was all my high school years. So
How
yeah,
was
a
the
lot of
tra-
moves.
how was that transition like during middle school to go back to Illinois? Was that a big difference from Arizona?
Oh yeah, because I was living in a big city in Arizona, and then I was in a small town in Illinois. So, but
Okay.
yeah, it was pretty small, man.
Okay.
Um,
Well, yeah.
so it
And
was
this
just
the seasons, yeah.
yeah, the seasons, and then Arizona, it's all the time hot or summer, but yeah, it still cools off. Dry heat though,
Right.
so yeah.
Dry heat for sure. And then when you got back to Arizona for high school, when you look back on high school years, what was it about? I mean, what were you doing in high school? Did you always think the military was going to be an option when you graduated, or were you looking at other things?
So basically, I thought I was gonna go to NAU or a college up in Flagstaff and
Mm,
just party with my friends who said that they were going to NAU. So I said, okay, I'll go to the community college and just hang out so we can party and snowboard and do that kind of cool stuff, winter
Yeah.
sports up in Flagstaff. But it didn't work out that way. Where I'm from in Illinois, there was a lot of Navy vets, so I knew that if I was going to join a service, I was going to join the Navy. So that's what I did, and
Right.
eventually was supposed to join the Air Force. I took the ASVAB, and they informed me, "Hey, it wasn't. You should probably study some more and take it next time." Well, I was impatient, and I wanted to do something with my life after high school. I wanted everything figured out. So
Yeah.
I then went to the recruiting station and popped in, saw them, and my recruiter was I remember to this day HT2 Carl May. Uh, Basically, he said everything. He said the good lines. Yeah, you can get money for college. And then I was like, "Where's the boot camp?" I knew it was in Chicago after being from
Mhm.
Illinois, and he said Chicago. I said, "Okay, sold. Let me sign." So I think I had to call my mom, and my mom came down, even though I was 17 or 18. I can't remember. And then my mom came in, signed the paper, and then we talked. They said, "Oh, okay, cool. You want to fight fires?" I was like, "Yeah, I want to be a fireman." And so, fireman ATD. So that's what happened. Yeah,
Fireman. What year did you join?
1997 June. I left
Okay,
for
so
boot
you
camp 6 days out of high school. I was on that flight and went to boot camp June 10th, 1997.
okay, so you and I joined in March 97, so we were at the same time. And I also
Yeah,
was an undesignated fireman. So
yeah,
I can't relate. So you came in undesignated fireman. Uh, the reason why I asked about the high school thing is because a lot of my students that listen to the podcast are they're trying to figure it out, right? They're trying to figure out life, and the reality starts hitting you in the face in your senior
oh,
year.
yeah,
They start recognizing that all their plans to go party at NAU may not really pan out, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
that may not work out, and then they like you. They're in a Navy ROTC program, so they have access to Navy veterans, and a lot of them might drift towards the Navy. And what I've learned doing in these conversations with people is a lot of us that joined the Navy had people that we knew that were in the Navy. It wasn't just a random I'm gonna go join the Navy. It was you knew
right,
somebody that was
yeah,
connected to the Navy. I think the Army gets the most people, or the Marines get the most people that are like, just walk on. I want to be a soldier. I want to be a Marine. Uh, Navy, you got to know someone that tells you it's not that bad. It's not- right? So you go to boot camp. How you go to boot camp in the summer? You already know how Illinois is. How was boot camp for you? Was it everything you expected it to be?
yeah. I don't know. It lost you, man.
Well, how was boot camp for you, brother? Was it everything you expected it to be? Can you hear me? Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you see me? John, can you hear me? Can you see me?
You
Can you hear
there?
me? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. So, how was boot camp for you, man? Was it everything you thought it was going to be?
Yeah, so I had listened in depth, and it was pretty much everything I thought it was gonna be, but yet I was a mama's boy, so I was away from home, and
Mm,
that was hard. But I learned to just get through it because that's just something that's gonna better my future at that time,
mhm.
because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So got through with it, and no setbacks with that, and then graduated on time in August.
So then you go to fireman school, right? You go to that little 3-day training class. Hey, this is a valve. This is the
I
end. This is where.
Yeah, you did like tools and their uses or stuff like that, and then I think mine was 3 weeks at the time, so it was
Okay.
it was real short. And
Yeah.
then I took leave, and then yeah, but went back home, and then took leave, did harp duty, the recruiting for like a week, and then it saved leave. And then I checked into the USS Boxer LHD-4 out of San Diego, and as an undesignated fireman.
Okay, so my first ship was Bellawood, so LHA, so very similar class ship, right? And
Yeah.
Boxer LHD. Where'd they stick you right away? Where was your first division?
So MP aft. So down in the in the pit is basically what
Yeah.
they called it. So I went there, stood watch 6 and 6. It made me who I am today. So I look back on it, and yeah, it was different doing it while at the time, but it made me who I am, and it learned me to
Right.
appreciate a little bit more of my career looking back. Because I worked for that, 6 and 6, and then you push to get qualified, and then eventually you're 6 and 18, or it just a
Yeah.
little bit different. But so I was there. I qualified in everything that I needed to do. On the B side, because this was 97, so the
Hmm.
boiler techs went away, so to speak, but they
Hmm.
still claim to be boiler techs. But I was on the B side. Then I worked in the auxiliary machinery room. Then I was the oily water pump operator. I was a lower level condenser watch, messenger. I started out, and then I started moving around, and then I was like, wow, this is easy. Uh, and then I met some guys that really took care of me, some MM1s and BT1s, and they said, hey, man, stick with us. We got you. And I became an MM3. I went to the oil lab, went to a lot of the oil lab schools, the Fuel and Water King, Oil Water King, and then I stayed in the oil lab. And then, so yeah, I was there. I did 2 deployments on the Boxer, and I eventually was able to convert to MA. My chief engineer at one time said, hey, what would it take for you to stay in the Navy? I said, well, first of all, I want recruiting orders. And so he said, okay. So he gave me Navy recruiting district, I think Chicago. And at that time, I said, okay. I took the orders, and I told my wife we were newly married. I told her I was going to go recruiting, and she was like, okay. And then all of a sudden, we went on deployment. She got sick on deployment. I came back home, and I had 15 days left on my EAOS. And so I had a change of heart. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to get out. I told my chief engineer and my chain of command. When my chief engineer said, hey, let's talk about this, let's revisit this. So he talked to me and said, what would it keep you to stay in? I said, well, make me an MA. And so he said, okay. I came back and we talked, and then he said, I got just the deal. How about you become an MA and you go to Las Vegas? I was like, wow, okay, sold. And so, yeah, so basically, I was an MM3. Then I was to convert, so I had a 95-45 is what they called it back then. And so I said, okay, let me do this. And basically, I thought I was a done deal, and I was going to Las Vegas. Well, it wasn't Las Vegas; it was Fallon, Nevada, NAS Fallon, Nevada Security Detachment.
Yeah.
So I go to 95-45 in Lackland Air Force Base. It was where the EMA and 95-45 school was at that time. It still is. I was just there a couple months ago. But anyways, I go out there, and holy cow, I become an MA. But 95-45, and then I check into Fallon, Nevada, and that's where I became MA2. And then, yeah, so I stayed out there, and then, yeah, that's it for that.
So I would tell you, so many similarities. I was also on the aft main machinery room on board Bellawood. I was a boiler guy working with 97, working with the guys that were just BTs. and they didn't want to
Yeah.
give me no MMs, right? So I burn them
Right.
in, BT lower level, BT upper level, all that stuff. And then I
Yep.
struck damage control, right, for my rate. I went recruiting, right, as a young sailor, as a third class. Um,
Yeah.
but I could see, what was it that was so scary about your wife's medical thing where you're just like, I'm getting out of the Navy, bro? Like, what? Because that what caused you to say, I'm just getting out? Was it your
To
wife's
tell you the
medical
truth,
thing? Yeah.
it was just she had lost a kid. She was pregnant, and so she had lost the kid, but it was like early on in the pregnancy.
Mhm.
So it was kind of, but at that time I was young, not thinking, and I just said, okay, let me get out, and she just thought of me being back home.
Yeah.
We didn't think about everything. And
Yeah.
so I think that's when I had a change of heart, like, and I thought about it. I was like, wow, if she would have got pregnant, then this and this and that, or if she was still pregnant, how do
Yeah.
you care for that kid without a job? So yeah, I can go back to Arizona, but what am I gonna do? So so that's what happened.
No, I can see
Yeah.
that though, right? And I will tell you, coming off of, here you are at the tail end of a tour on board the Boxer, having your deployments under your belt, and you're gonna go back to a ship again as a machinist mate, right? You're gonna go back to a ship. And
Yeah.
when you're
Correct.
on those deployments, there's only so much you can do, right? It's not like you can just go home tomorrow sometimes, right? That's pretty scary for a
Yeah.
lot of us, because people people don't really recognize how much the Navy deploys, right? We deploy consistently, continuously, whether there's war happening or not. The ships are getting underway,
Right.
right? Um, and so I
Yeah.
remember in the
Yeah.
late '90s, people looking at the MA rate. They were looking at career recruiter. They were looking at going reservist. They were even offering, remember, 15-year retirements for first classes
Yeah.
back then,
Yeah.
because just, I would say, quality of life was hell on wheels. It was just tough, right? And
Yeah.
so I could see where going MA was an option for you guys, especially coming through that challenging time as a family. But and you know what else is cool is you had a chain of command that was willing to work with you, bro, because we didn't have computers back then like we have now, right? There wasn't no internet like there is today and all this other stuff. Luckily you had some people that could pull some strings, it sounds like, to get you some good opportunities.
Yeah, and so I like I said, I went to Fallon, checked in as MM3, and the Master Chief said, "Hey, I got a program for you, and you'll be the ATB guy. You're going to be doing all the maintenance of security." And I said, "Well, I want to be an MA." She was a she called, and I was an MA3 in 2 weeks at that time. So that's what happened.
Wow. So you went there really on shore duty orders as an engineer to go just do base security stuff for
Yes.
shore duty, and you were able to leverage that opportunity to convert over to the rate.
Yeah, within
And
2 weeks of checking in, I mean, I was an MA2 or MA3, and then eventually I took the test, became MA2, right? First time up after taking
so
the test 4 times for MM2.
let me ask you then, because you were also, it sounds pretty effective as an engineer, right? Because they don't just pick knuckleheads to go into the oil lab, right? Like, you've got to
Correct,
impress
correct.
people to get into the oil lab. So how did you like the transition from the rules, the regulation, the EOS, the EOP, the EOCC world of engineering, going into the world now of naval security forces? Was that an easy transition, or was that a little challenging?
So that transition, it was a little bit challenging, but yeah, EOS and the UCMJ or just being an MA, you got strict stuff that you follow, procedures when you stay on the watch, SOPs,
Mhm.
different stuff. So it wasn't that challenging, but yeah, at the fact that I missed the camaraderie in engineering, and then going to be an MA, it was a little bit different. But then it was like, hey, as long as you stay true to yourself, I think the foundation was there, and eventually everything else about being a new rate, especially in MA. I mean, just be yourself, So I was very eager to hit the road to be a patrolman. So I
Mhm.
mean, right away, did what I had to do. But I still had that engineering background that that I knew a lot of people, so it was easy for me to still relate to a lot of people instead of I'm just an MA,
Mhm.
in that way.
Right.
So that helped me when I went back to a ship as an MAC. I was still the
Right.
engineering background and understanding, what engineers do, and
That's huge, man. I will
right,
tell you the MA community, we're gonna talk about this here in a second, but after 9/11, when they started accessing people in as MAs right out the gate, I think they lost a little bit about what made the MAs, I would say, really, 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 really effective on the waterfront because they had that
right,
other background, right? And
correct,
then you get an MA chief coming to the ship who's never done the deck plate stuff before. They might be a little bit more frustrated with the role, right? Because it's
correct.
not glamorous,
No,
but it's what has to happen, right?
yes,
I remember
yes,
I was on the George Washington, and I had a bunch of buddies that had done global war on terror stuff in Iraq and Afghanistan, right? And this is like 2010, 11, 12 timeframe. And they really were frustrated being in the regular Navy. They missed being like overseas doing operational kinetic things. And I was like, brother, we do general quarters and cleaning stations. Get used to it, bro. Like, I need you to be
yeah,
all into that because you're a leader and you're sailors. And you just, this is the thing. This is what we do, bro. Learn how to do spot checks, homie. Learn how to
yeah,
do-
yeah,
because it takes a lot of man hours to keep those big ships running and going, right? Um,
correct.
and yeah, I could see that for sure. And I will tell you something else. I got to know the security forces intimately as a CMC because I was a base master chief. And I'll tell you what, having my engineering background really helped me to understand what they were talking about because watch standing was watch standing, right? Principles are principles, CCRs are CCRs. Having all
Right.
these different criteria, I could speak that language pretty clearly. The challenges was there wasn't enough people it felt like to do the job, right? It just felt like there was always barely enough. And then the other thing that with the MAs, and I'm sure we'll get into this at some point, is managing the civilians with the military, right? That's a complicated management problem as a leader,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yes. And Fallon, did you have that? Was there a lot of DoD civilians working there as well as?
When I was in Fallon, that was not. Yeah, that didn't happen. We didn't have any civilians that worked with us.
So do you think did that come because of 9/11? Is that why the DoD civilians started getting hired? Because they took
Yeah,
away
I
the
think
shore duty for all the sailors.
right, and then I think that was a little bit after. When I say a little bit, like less than 5 years after, because I
Right.
don't. I went back into Region San Diego, and then there was civilians at Region San Diego, but I think not in Fallon at that
Okay.
time. Yeah.
So were you in Fallon when 9/11 happened?
I was in Fallon. No, I was actually on deployment 3 days away from coming back. And then literally got back, checked out, went to 9545 and then checked in, I want to say like a month. I mean, I checked in December. So after yeah, of September 11th, yeah.
So when you went through 9545 school, how were the instructors talking? Because 9/11 changed a lot of things force protection wise. I mean, the USS Cole getting hit, right? And then 9/11, those two things for the Navy really caused us to look hard at our force protection posture and what we were doing. So did you catch that energy going through training and going into Fallon? Like, hey, this is a serious concern that we gotta really focus on.
Yeah, so that was I think it was that I didn't know any difference. So we pretty much focused a lot on force protection.
Yeah.
But yet law enforcement at that time was pretty big too. Um because you had to go through so many like where they mock up like scenes and you have to do domestic violence or assaults in the barracks or assaults at a house and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So but the force protection it was there, but it wasn't like it, I didn't have anything to compare it to, so I thought that was normal.
Okay.
But it was like watch standing was very big. how to properly turn over. But as an engineer, you understand the law, you understand that stuff. But yet, you know, the 11 general orders, the century, this time you're a century, this time, different stuff like that. So force protection, yeah, it was I think after we did a lot of force protection in Fallon. But it was different to when I went to Region San Diego in the harbor, the force protection, I was on harbor boats there in San Diego. So that force protection was, the barriers, your levels, and different stuff like that. And I think it just compounded every year and it just became the full spectrum later on. And it was, but it was quick once we made that after September 11th. I remember captains, from the ships. I mean, they were more force protection eccentric.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
it was quick.
It
Eh,
was a huge uptick, man. I think
yeah,
really, I think the USS Cole getting hit, and then just us getting a terrorist attack. Everybody just like, okay, we don't know who's going to hit us next. We got to be ready at all times, even in our home port, right? And that
right.
was we used to kind of be a little more relaxed in our home ports, and then it just really it ticked up a lot. And then, did you know once you got converted to MA that you were going to stay for a whole career? Or were you still just kind of feeling it out? Because again, you went on this wild swing of like,
Yeah,
me and my wife going through this hard time. I'm getting
yeah.
out. Okay, now I got this opportunity to go MA. But even then, were you
So
still just like, I'm not sure. I'm just gonna feel it out?
no, I had a change of heart. So I was like, I love this. This is what I want to do. I want to be a police officer forever.
Okay.
So I just remembered way back when, and I said, "Hey, that police officer looks cool." But when I came in, you had to know the Navy first before,
Mm,
back then you had to be at least in, and then you put in a package and that kind of stuff. So I
yeah.
said, and then, so I looked at several avenues the MA field had, and I said, not everything is going to be patrol, and then stuff like that. So eventually, I'm in it for the long haul.
Okay, so you kind of already had the idea of going MA in your mind before you got there, but like you said, you had to put some time in first, right? It's like you just
Correct.
that was you had to prove yourself to the Navy before they would give you the opportunity. Yeah,
Yeah, and it
because
made sense.
MA, yeah, I mean MA is one of the oldest rates. It's a very traditional rate, and you had to have your it's a senior rate, right? In my opinion, back in the old
Yeah,
days the chief master at arms was one of the main people on the ship that ran good order and discipline for the captain, right?
yeah,
Ultimately, I mean, they were probably damn near the CMC before there was a thing called the CMC, right? And
right.
I understand that 1,000%. So after Fallon, when you went to Region, did you go to Naval Base San Diego to the Harbor Patrol, or did you go right to the Region actually and work with like oversight over the bases?
No, so what you do is back then, this is 2003. So back then you check into the region and then they place you out. They farm you out to all the bases or harbor patrol. So somebody said, or you talk to many people, your buddies, and like, yeah, bro, they don't, they really need MA2s over in the border. So I was like, okay, I wanted to go to the border. But then all of a sudden it was like, we need more MA2s in the harbor. You're going to the harbor. So
Mhm.
that's where I went. And I did, ship escorts, all types of escorts, and then standing watch in what they call Zone 3, just the carrier basin, or
Mhm.
submarine in Point Loma, and then Zone 1, which was over there in like 32nd Street past Pier 13. So,
Okay.
yeah,
So when you made second class petty officer to Fallon, it sounds like you come to the harbor. Is the rotation the same at the harbor as it was in Fallon? Were you on that 3-2-2-3 schedule at both places?
yeah, they call that the Panama schedule, every other weekend off.
The
So
Panama
yeah,
schedule.
so
Okay.
I did that, and I did that for about a good year. And then eventually I somehow made. I basically took a staff job, and then yeah, so I did that staff job after that.
So my guys that were on the harbor when I was in Guam, they loved the harbor over the patrol guys because they felt like on the harbor you really didn't have to interact with a lot of people, right? You were just out there on your
Correct.
boat, right?
Yeah, I ran into the same thing in Yokosuka, years later as a senior chief, and hearing just different stuff that happens. Yes.
Yeah,
So
1000%. And I remember working with my senior enlisted MA and being like, bro, I don't care how much they like the harbor, like MAs are MAs, and we need them to do MA stuff regardless because the manning sucks, right? Like we
yeah,
gotta figure it out, right? But people get really pigeonholed, and I'm a harbor MA or I'm a landside guy, and
yeah,
it's so
and
and
it
every rate has that. Every community in the Navy has their things, right?
but it got big, and it got big into that, and they just kept saying, I'm a harbor guy. Well,
Yeah,
no, if you're an MA1, how are you going to get leadership? So how do we do? So some commands I remember didn't play that game. Certain
yeah,
commands do, and then eventually, but it just depends on what the senior enlisted are doing at that time, or the
yeah,
SECO, how they feel. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so
That's it. It really comes out of the Chiefs mess and the Secco, right? Because
yeah,
ultimately, I've seen that where I had a new chief check on board, and sometimes they have an NEC for Harbor, right?
yeah,
But
but
you
I
also
mean,
like I know you do what the CO needs you to do, bro. At the end of the day, you do what the captain
exactly.
needs you to do, and that's it. Um, okay, so you're out there in the harbor. You're an MA2 a year, and then they recognize you again for an opportunity to come work on the staff job. Because again, me just listening to you, bro, I know the Navy. I know that that's what happens when someone recognizes talent. They're going to bring you in to help make their life easier, right? That's what it is. Some dude higher ranking than you is like, oh, Lukosis is pretty freaking smart. I bet you if I brought him in, he can help out with ops or training or whatever it is and make someone else's life easier. And they see the potential in you, right? That's the reality. They see your potential. They know if you make MA1, you might be a really good security LDO or a chief petty officer, right? Is that what they're thinking?
Yeah,
Yeah. What was
yeah.
so when they pulled you into the staff job, what did they have you working? Were you working training or were you working like ops?
I was doing a little bit of. I was a jack of all trades, so I did logistics, I did training, and I did ops.
Mm,
So
okay.
I implemented a lot when people needed different sections. Logistics, I would drive the boats to get fixed, who to say port ops at North Island. Um, and then I also attended a lot of training workshops. Um, and then I remember one time I got asked by the Master Chief of Region, "Hey, your name's picked. You're going to go on and do a summer TAD to Germany for an exercise." So I pretty much did a lot when that was asked, and
Hmm.
it was staff hours. So I was like, "Yeah, cool," and I did
Yeah.
it, and it was a
Yeah.
good time. And then
Nice.
I had some experience.
Did you at that point had you gotten yourself a mentor that you really latched onto yet or that latched onto you? Because one thing I've seen about the MA community is they do have some strong mentorship ties within your community, right? You got some good MACMs, MACSs, secos that are very involved with sharpening up their people, or were you just kind of figuring it out on your own and trying to just get information from everybody you could?
No, I had a really good mentor. We were in MAA school together, so or 9545, but he went to the base. So he was already selected chief, and he was at 32nd Street. So MAC Gary Humphreys. So basically I reached out to him, was trying to, he got mad that I went to the harbor, but yet
Mm,
everything worked out in the end. But
right.
yeah, so I was always reaching out to him.
Awesome. and that matters, right? Because and what's cool about him as a mentor is you guys were relatively the same age. That iron's going to sharpen iron, right? You're friends, your mentor, but you're also a little bit in competition. Like I want to keep up with them. He wants me to keep up with him, and I've been there. I got friends like that too. So after the region job in San Diego, do you do all three? Is it a 3-year billet?
So basically, it was I want to say that it was almost 3 years because they matched my. They said Fallon, and then the region. They counted them together, and they said you need to go to sea. And I
Mhm.
said okay, I want to go to Japan. And so basically, I did my PQS to be a dog handler. And I don't know if you remember that thing called AIP, Assignment
Mhm.
Incentive Pay. They
Oh
had a
yeah.
billet for Misawa. And then so my mass chief said, "Hey, go call the detailer. They got your recommendation to go kennels. Call the detailer." So when I called the detailer said, "Just because you got a recommendation doesn't mean you're going to go." So at that time, it was a little bit different. So I kind of was frustrated. And instead of going to the master chief to tell him what they said, I went straight to the base career counselor and applied for everything Japan with AIP. I wanted to go to Japan, so I chose the lowest for AIP was $50. So Misawa, Japan, it was. That's where I ended up getting orders to.
As straight up Naval Security Forces in Misawa.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And did your wife want to go to Japan too? Did she have any idea what was in store for going to Japan?
So she did, but yet, she was just like, "Wow, let's go to Japan." I think,
Yeah.
but didn't really understand Misawa, cold,
Yeah.
north, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Misawa is definitely a world of its own. It's the North. Yeah. It's like in the Game of Thrones, right? It's the wall, right? It's the wall up north.
yeah.
And when you got to Misawa, were you already in MA1?
I was a MA2, and I
MA2.
was there. So I was there for just under 3 years because my wife was early return. So I was
Oh.
placed in a category of EFM
Hmm.
3, and that right there, I learned a lot about the Navy, how they take care of people, right? But yet
Hmm.
at the same time, I learned, and everything comes full circle later on. I'll get to that, but
Okay.
I just there was just so I ended up doing a 12 months by myself, and then that was what happened. Yeah.
So your wife went through some medical stuff over there, and they didn't have the medical care for her. So they recognized the best thing for her and for your family was to send her back to the States. But then
Yeah,
you had
with
to
my
go
oldest son.
geo with your oldest son, but then you had to go back to Misawa geo batch.
Yeah, so they allowed me to move them back. So they said, "Here, take 30 days." And then the detailer said, "I'll work with you. I'll give you San Diego on the background. Don't worry about a thing." So I said, "Okay, cool."
Okay. And then when you were in Misawa, were you back on the Panama routine again, the Panama schedule, or did they have you doing staff work again?
No, I went straight to the Panama schedule, and then we were there for about 3 months, and then they were like, "Hey, you're gonna now augment the base with 35th Security Forces, Air Forces." And so I went there, and I was the best dang Navy in the Air Force. So that's basically I qualified. What we had to do is like um, they called it. So you did a patrolman there. That was easy, and then you became a flight sergeant. So I was a flight sergeant, which is the watch commander, but then we're running Air Force troops. So that's
Okay.
that's basically what I did. And a desk
How
sergeant was like the big thing.
how much different was that working for the Air Force than working for the Navy?
A lot different. So just talking to each other, a little
Right.
bit different. Their master sergeants would be like, "Hey Pete, you know, let's go do this. And so you're just
Yeah.
like, okay. But they were big on air-based defense. Basically, there was two sides. There was air-based defense and LE, law enforcement.
Mm.
So air-based defense was they had a line on the flight line, the demarcation line. If you cross it, fair game to put a person down on the deck. But yet, that was just as a whole. So we qualified in every station that they did, and so I did that for about 1 year, and then the Air Force and Navy chains of command had butt heads, and then the Navy just said, "Hey, as of Friday, just don't go to work." And so that's how we pulled out that deal. And at that time, the chain of command that was messed up. So we just didn't go to
Mm.
work, and we just learned to do a mission for the Navy. So yeah, that's what we did then. And then I was there.
So it sounds like it's a joint base and they were just having problems communicating. I can only imagine, especially when it comes to law enforcement and force protection
Yeah.
and priorities, right? For sure.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't imagine being at Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. Yeah.
But God, that has got to be crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you, when you came back Geo Batch, were you living in the barracks?
Oh yeah. I was a resident advisor as an MA2. And I'd been in the Navy, what, 10 years? And so, I just stuck to myself and worked out and lost weight. And, pretty much that's what I did. And I said, just make the best of it. So, yeah,
So how many times were you up for first class before you picked up the rank?
4 times.
4 times. So what was the complication? Was it the test taking? Was it the evals were just stuck in traffic? Was it because for people that are listening for Navy advancements, it's not just
Yeah.
dude's kicking butt doing his job. He's getting recognized for things. But if you don't pass that test with a high enough score, that's a
Yeah.
problem.
So I always P&A'd it, but it was just,
Okay.
it was bottlenecked at that time.
Mm.
And then eventually, once I transferred, I checked into the new command and then boom, right away.
Okay, so where did you go? So you went back to San Diego after
I
Masala.
went back to San Diego in a command called MESG 3, or it was MS RON 3 at the time. So it was Maritime Expeditionary Security Squadron. So we would do EST missions on USNS ships, submarines,
Mhm.
or convoy security, campsite security, that kind of stuff.
So for people listening, EST is like embarked security forces, and they go on board ships and they provide security. And look, I will tell you, in my opinion, this is another result of the war on terror because pre 9/11, the Marine Corps used to do those missions, right? But
Yeah.
after 9/11, the Marines were all busy out there fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq, and someone still got to do the missions. So the Navy says, we'll just create our own freaking maritime security forces. We'll call them MAs. And that MESG lot job, people don't understand that's a hard road, man. Like there's a lot of rotational deploying and it's very lonely because not everyone in your command is going on the underway. It's just like 5 or 6 guys at a time, right?
And so, yeah, it just depended on what type of mission, how many people. It could be 11, 12, it could
Right.
be 6. So what had happened was I check in to the command. First day, they said, "Hey, your detachment is on deployment." I said, "Wow, okay." So I check in, and they said, "You'll leave in 2 weeks." Where's the deployment? They said Bahrain. So I said, "Okay." So I check in with the CMC. The CMC found out that I basically wasn't, I was going to deploy, but basically where I was before as Geo Batch,
Right.
and we were currently staying with family, and I still was on a housing list. That CMC made a phone call to the housing office, got me from number 79 on the list to moving in 2 weeks. And
Good.
they allowed me to get my family moved in and have a week with them and then depart. So that's what happened.
That's amazing, bro. And I'm gonna tell you, the CMC and me is like, I'm gonna fight to have you not on that group right away because you just came back from a Geo Badge tour every year, right? But I'm glad
Right.
that that Mash team did what he could, and I understand the Manning push and all that. But that's how it goes, man. Like, not everyone knows everyone's story when they come from a command or go to a new command, and you got to tell somebody. Like, if you just suck it up and just don't say nothing, no one's gonna know, bro. Like, you just went through
Yeah,
hell,
I was
right?
still quiet, and I remember dealing with detailers and just letting them, okay, whatever. I didn't want to piss off anybody, and so that's
Yeah,
that's what happened. And then
I
finally,
understand.
I was like, hey, CMC, my family is like, we're staying with family, and we need to move into a house. I'm on number 79 on a list, and he's like, don't worry, I'll call. And I was moving in 2 weeks, and so he changed that. I literally did what I needed to do. Got off to I landed to Bahrain off the deployment, and I found out I made MA1 that time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, was that MESG? Were they under Naval Expeditionary Combat Command (NECC) at that time?
Yeah, so it was early days though.
Hmm.
It wasn't as full fledged as NACC was back then. So this
Right.
is 2007. I checked in. Okay,
Okay. And
2007.
so in Bahrain, were you guys deploying like on the different oilers and the different USNS ships that were out there?
Yeah, so we were doing all like the just all the USNSs that keep coming out. And then all of a sudden they were like, "Hey, we got a mission coming up for you guys." So there was 5 or 6 of us that kind of checked in together and got arrived to Bahrain around the same time. And they said, "You're going on a submarine mission." I was like, "Wait, what?" And so I went on the USS Philadelphia for a EST mission.
Wow.
And why they need it is through just different choke points.
Right.
So they said, hey, Suez Canal. So at that time, they were like, yeah, you're gonna board it from Gibraltar. We'll fly you out to Gibraltar, and then 13 days. That's easy. And we're like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. So we get out to Fujairah, UAE, and eventually we get stranded for like a week in Fujairah before the submarine surfaces. Then they BSP, and then we come alongside on a small boat, and then we walk across. We go down under, and then everybody's full of beards. They got vans on, and it was like, "Hey, welcome aboard." So they said, "Give me $20. You can grow your beard." So that's basically what happened. They got their $20. We grew a facial hair.
Yeah.
Um, So, I'll sum it up. 13 days. Nah, it was 87 days that we stayed on that thing. We went through Aqaba, Jordan for Christmas Eve. This is
Right.
right after change of 2007, 2008. And then ended up pulling into Rota, Spain early because my chief uh, he developed a stroke on board, so we had to pull in a day early, and we got off in Rota and rode to Spain 2008, and then went back to Bahrain. So yeah,
Man, so that was a Gilligan's adventure, huh? Gonna go for 13 days to come back 90 days later. Um,
yeah. And so
when you were,
as soon
yeah,
as soon as we got off that submarine, we got rid of all the clothes that we had, and we bought all new clothes. So yeah,
when you were going from Misawa to the NECC job, was there any serious training pipeline you went through for this new role you were going to have of doing this security, like embarked security forces, or were they
at that
expecting
time,
you to use?
yeah, at that time they didn't have that. At that time, that was not like. So they call that ECS now, and so they go to
Yeah.
Gulfport. So they don't have that now. But anyways, yeah, I mean,
Okay. So
that's what
you
that's what
go there with
happened.
all of your, so you have all your training from being landside security forces, being an MA, and of course talking with your team about how you would do things if God forbid something was to happen that was a
Yeah,
problem. That's a very interesting underway, bro. That's a very you should have came back with some submarine, fish on your collar, on your chest, getting qualified.
And we tried to, but the Cobb at the time just didn't wasn't too keen about MAs being on a boat, so they call it boat,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
that's what it was. So
Yeah. So when I was on all my ships, whenever we would have embarked, like even we'd have embarked like naval, special forces, they'd come on the ship, they'd be working their butts off to get their ESWAS pins because back
yeah,
in the day, but when they were source ratings, right? So you might be a bosun mate, but you're with special
yep,
forces, so you're trying to get your ESWAS pin so you can make
yeah.
chief better, whatever it is. So an MA with some fish would be definitely an interesting sight. But I mean, 80 something days underway. That had to have left an interesting mark on your career as you moved on, right? Just what you learned from that. How much different was the culture on that submarine underway, vice what you had seen before that on the Boxer?
So it was totally different. But everybody took care of their own. I mean, what I'm saying is, I'll never forget. There's sponges in each head, and you get out of the shower, you sponge after. You sponge when you're done brushing your teeth. First classes, they worked on a submarine. So it was just different being an MM, engineering, usually MM1s, but smoke, watch people, that kind of stuff, or they'd be in the EOS or that kind of stuff. So seeing it, I was like, wow. Um, you know, uh, they really work. They take care of each other, and they very close knit. Um, and then all emails that go out and come back are looked at by the chain of command. So that was kind of interesting, because this is the time that my wife gets pregnant again, and then I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, and so my wife is, contacting back, and so I had the CMC walk up to me and say, "Hey, your wife sent you an email. You need to check." And I was like, "Wow, okay, cool." So, but yeah, that's it's a lot different.
So was this deployment to Bahrain? Was it a 12-month deployment or a 6-month deployment?
It was supposed to be like 7 months,
Okay.
but basically, I did like a half of a deployment, out there with the submarine, and then I got back to Bahrain. Then eventually, advanced party. I went back home. I think 2 weeks early to get ready for the homecoming.
Mhm.
There was myself and the senior chief went back. So yeah.
But you found out you make MA1 in Bahrain while you're on this deployment, right? So when you come back home, now you're a first class petty officer on the homecoming.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. And then when you get back, you still have what 2.5 more years with MESG?
So about 2 years. And so I did the 2 years there. I'll forward to so basically I was to deploy again. And then the detailer called me and said, "Hey, you've been on sea duty too long," because they said Nassau counted.
Mm.
And they said, "We want you to be a detailer." So I basically did a package, and then my chain of command said, "You're still going to go on deployment, and then if you get orders, we'll just send you back." Well, it was a day before deployment, and then the orders came in. Congratulations, selected to go be a detailer in Millington, Tennessee, MA rating detailer. So
Awesome. So you went there as an MA1 to Millington.
yeah,
Did your wife, because your wife's in San Diego, right? She did Japan, she did Misawa, but Millington is a different vibe than San Diego, right?
that's a third world country. Yeah. So yeah,
Well, there's two kinds of people in this world, bro. There's the people that will live and die by Millington, and they'll post pictures of the big houses and just tell you how it's everything. Then there's the people that will say it's a third world country, and they'll tell you that it's like I was talking to a brother the other day, and he has a Japanese spouse, right? He's up in Yokosuka right now, and he was like, "Bro, I should have never taken my Japanese wife to freaking Millington, dog." He's like,
yeah,
"Cause she don't ever want to go back to America." He's like, she thinks that
yeah.
America is just Millington. And yeah, there's some that's why the government's there helping them figure out the crime, right? Like Millington,
Right.
that Memphis area, it's not always the best place, right? Depending upon where you
Hmm.
go, and there's a lot of real estate, right? There's a lot of open area that people can get into mischief and trouble. You know, Blue Street's not always safe after dark, right? Is that what it's Beale Street? Beale Street is what they call it, right?
Beale Street. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you get to Millington as a detailer. Uh, how does that go for you? Do you like the job?
So all of a sudden, so if you're first class, you go check in. Back in the day when I checked in 2009, you check in, you're first class, they take care of you. I mean, you go through, they show you the tank, they show you just different stuff. You do like an
Mhm.
in-doc with all the Navy programs and you learn. I mean, it's at your fingertips and it's just like you learn that there's no such thing as no in the Navy when you go to Millington. So,
Mhm.
but a lot of those EFM programs, I was like, wow, this is interesting. So I remember what I went through, and so as a detailer, I can help out now. You know, those sailors if I had the same situation. So I understand more. So you did that. So I did that, and did a couple detailing trips to Groton, Connecticut, because why? I went on a submarine, so I wanted to go see my sub friends in Groton, and then I went to uh, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, for a detailing trip, and I felt myself that I never did an IA to Guantanamo. So how can I send people there? So how fitting, conveniently, I get back from that detailing trip, my master chief says, "Hey, your name's IA. You're on the IA list to go to Guantanamo." So I was like, "Wow, that was weird." So I think it was full circle. I learned, like, hey, now I understand what these people like calling for orders after Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. So I ended
Mhm.
up going IA from Millington, and it was 378 days or something. So if it's more than 375, you're allowed to take your family back to a appointed place of record. So I sent my wife and my kids back to San Diego. So and got the San Diego BAH while they, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least you got them out of Memphis and they weren't happy there. But I'll tell you, I hate the letters IA. Like me personally, Gary Wise, they tried to sell it to all of us when we were in the Navy that this was what, that it was. Remember, they were like, oh, if you don't go on an IA or a GSA tour, you're not going to make chief. You got to do it to make rank. And I'm just like, brother, I joined the Navy to be a damage controlman. Like, I re enlisted to be a damage controlman. I know you need people to go drive trucks and go guard prisoners, but I mean, what the hell? And then that was just I really struggled with that time period because it just felt like we didn't know what we bit off into as an organization, and we were just
Yeah.
plugging holes with people, right? And families. And I'm glad you were able to work it out because you're savvy. And if I had a buddy of mine, he got pulled the day I made DC-1. He got pulled on a 12-month IA to get Guantanamo Bay, one of the very first ever to go down there. The captain tells him, well, when you come back, you don't got to go on deployment because you're going on this 12-month IA in support of the global war on terror. He comes back, it's a new CO. Guess what, bro? You're going on deployment now. And
Yeah.
I just, I just hated him, man. I'm glad we got out of that business, right? Because that was tough on families, that was tough on sailors, and I mean that prisoner detainee ops job kind of shitty, literally. Right? Did
Yeah.
you when you went down there, um, did you end up actually at the end of your time? When you look back on that time in Guantanamo, how was that for you?
What's that?
How, how do you look back on your time in Guantanamo Bay? Do you look back on it
Um,
like it was?
can you hear me?
Did you? Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me? Test, test, test. Can you hear me, John?
So
John. Yeah.
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, I went down there and I was detainee op, so I worked with detainees for a good part of the time. I did for about 4 months. I worked with the terrorists, and then I became the camp LPO, and also did detainee movement order. So if a detainee is ordered release, a country then picks them up, and then you get notification that a certain detainee is leaving. So different times of the day, my team and I would get them out of their cell and move them so that they can fly away. So we would transport them to the Ravens, and then they take them out.
Hmm. Okay, so after
So
Guantanamo
that's
Bay, yeah. Can you hear me?
yeah. After Guantanamo Bay, I went back to Millington. My name was on the list to make chief. So then I went through um, um, induction there, and then yeah, I was a chief, and then yeah, it was fun in Millington. So
Uh,
lots of chiefs, senior chief, master chiefs, retired and
yeah,
active
yeah. That's a great
in
place to make
FTS.
chief. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
great
a
place.
great place to be. Who was I talking to the other day? I was talking to someone else that just made chief there. Dean Howell, he made chief there as well, and
Yeah,
he was telling me about going through initiation at Millington and saying it's one of the largest chiefs messes in the Navy, right? And then you got tons of retirees there too that are all part of the process.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How was initiation for you in
Okay,
Millington? How was
so
initiation for you?
I was initiation for me, I was a little bit like not scared, but I was apprehensive of with the crew that you made it with, like some of the other rates. I was still trying to be a first class, still scared to open up to the other people and the other rates. But guess what? We gotta talk to make it. So and eventually I think the light bulb clicked probably about the fourth week, so or not the fourth week, probably like the third week, when we started doing a little stuff. The light bulb turned on when I went to Gulfport to live like a CB for a week. So if you make it in Millington, half go to Millington, half go to Gulfport, half go to the Constitution. So because I got picked to go to Gulfport, I was pretty bummed I didn't get to go to Constitution. I thought that was going to be, I was mad. But anyways, I went up to Gulfport, and that was the best week of my life. And
Mm,
the selectees that went to Gulfport, we were very tight to this day. What you're doing together that whole 7 days that you were there. So yeah,
right.
it was
Okay.
awesome after that. And then yeah,
So then you make chief, you go back to your detailing. Are you able to detail yourself orders where you're going to go to next?
of course. So I detailed myself to go to the USS Tortuga, LSD 46 as an MAC because I always wanted to be an MAC at sea. Because that was something that I looked at when I was on the Boxer. I like to see Chiefs at sea and as an MAC. So I said, hey, I'm gonna do that. And I said no matter
Mm,
what. And um, I knew it was Sasebo. So my wife, with the EFM, she was not, so that meant she had to go through additional doctor's appointments, and then eventually everything it got clear, and we went there to Sasebo. Yeah, I went to Tortuga,
So
and then
so when you get okay, when you get to Sasa Vegas, right? Much different than Masawa. Um, how was that for you guys when you first got there? Was the base how was the base? Did you guys like it?
so we loved it. My wife really loved it, and she got involved with a lot of friends. So basically, we transferred with two other families from Millington, who my wife was close with. So we
Mhm.
all transferred together. Basically, it was like a package deal. So, anyways, we both got, or we all three of us got the same ship. So we basically head out there. My wife started working with on the buses, and then she got a job right away. Started, going places. Got to see a lot of stuff while I was when we were underway, and all the friends are the wife's friends. They would do stuff while us gone, and while we knew more about Okinawa, they knew more about Sasebo. So yeah,
Right? For real. That's a fact. The two
yeah.
other friends you had, were they chiefs as well?
Oh yeah, they're both senior chiefs. So one was my sponsor from season, but we had known each other before, and
Okay.
then so they were both senior chiefs. One was the 3MC, and then one was the DCCS, James Gibb. So I don't know if
So,
you remember James
mm-mm.
Gibb. Yeah.
I don't know him, but the 3MC, who was is he a GSCS?
No, EMCS, Will Despolo. He's
Okay, no, I don't know
retired
either one
warrant.
of those. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
either one of those guys. Okay. Well, that's awesome though. You had some friends going there with you. So and you all three got to the Tortuga at the same time?
I got there first before them. And then I think Will was like 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, and then James got there a little bit after that. Yeah.
Okay, so when you got to the Tortuga, because I'll tell you, I did an LSD, and you and I served on the same LSD because Tortuga is going to whole swap with Ashland, right?
Yeah.
But the LSD platform was a lot different than the LHA LHD platform. The well deck was the same, but a lot of other stuff was different. The engine men ran the pit, right? They had a whole different mindset.
Engine Man,
How
yeah.
was how was the ship for you when you got there?
So so I went there and I was just like, wow. But yet I remembered being an engineer. But yet I was an MAC. But guess what? I was a chief. So
Mhm.
I just had to remember, hey, you're a chief. So um, in just the uniforms, stuff like that, like things that you're used to as a shore duty MA, like what are you doing? I think you learn everybody what they do, what their job
Mhm.
is. And, some guys are on watch till, but yet, you know, I just think that it it helped my engineering background helped to go back to a ship as an MAC. So
Yeah.
that's but it was just wild seeing like some of the stuff that I probably would have been up, if hadn't I not converted.
Yeah. How was the culture prior to the whole swap? Was it hard to keep everybody focused on the Tortuga when you guys knew you were changing over ships?
Yeah. So basically it was like every whole swap, I had it, you got it. Basically, let's just go. Or
Mhm.
stash things. So I think a lot of us felt like stuff when we got to theirs or they, vice versa. When I was on Tortuga, my office was next to the post office. But then when I went on to Ashland, the office was, I think, where your office, or actually where the sales office was on the Tortuga. So it was a little bit
Mhm.
different. Um, or actually, the original MA office on the Ashland was where your office was.
Mhm.
But it wasn't until Steve Bronder that moved offices, myself and him, and then they chose me to go down to where the sales office was.
Mhm.
So
It's like Space Wars, bro.
yeah,
It is. I remember the managing the berthings on Ashland, and the berthing that I was sleeping in when I first got there was really supposed to be the female berthing, right? It was really supposed to be the female gunny and female chief petty officer berthing. And somehow the CMC had gotten in there with another master chief had gotten in there. And uh, then the sergeant majors came on board, and it was a challenge because when I had female chiefs, I had no female chief racks, right? And
right.
they ended up putting them in Wharton staterooms down there in officer country. And as I was doing my research and looking at looking at everything, I was like, well, it's because we're not supposed to be in the stupid berth. We're supposed to be in there
Yeah,
with the Chiefs, right? And
yeah,
now the females didn't want to come out of their birthing, right? Because as a matter of fact, no, as a matter of fact, the females had their own female chief birthing that ended up becoming the female JO birthing because we had so many female JOs, we didn't have enough staterooms, right? And so the captain
yeah,
was like, I'm making a female JO jungle, and those chief petty officers got to go somewhere else. And so I
Yeah.
was able to coordinate for them to get stateroom where they could share a stateroom, and they were okay with that. But it's just space wars, people making moves, people making changes on their own time, and it's not how it was designed.
Yeah.
When you look back on your time on board Tortuga and Ashland, do you have a favorite part? Was Tortuga better or was Ashland better? Do you have a favorite portion of your time?
No. Well, like the Ashland's birthing, the Chiefs birthing,
Okay.
a lot better. Uh, it was a lot bigger. Your racks were a lot bigger, and then I just say like my office was bigger,
Mhm.
but it was the same stuff. I mean, that's what we were doing. Always in
Okay.
Okinawa, always picking up Marines, lots of ports in Seventh Fleet.
Yeah. Lots of underway time, lots of operations. Um, I know, I think Carlos Gonzalez was involved. Did he come to Tortuga as well at the end?
Yeah, he came there, yeah, from ATG, and then
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, he was telling me. I remember when I got to Ashland because he was still in Ashland, and he had very fond memories of Tortuga. And I think there's always this mindset of we got the ship where it needs to be at DNF, and then we get the ship from San Diego that's kind of beat up. It feels like broke. We got to fix it all again. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, me being an former engineer, I probably said that or looked at that, but having the main space, that kind of stuff, it didn't bother me. But yet, I was on D set on both ships, so I was the torch on D set. So because
yeah,
I knew because the DCCS was like, "Hey, man, you were an MM3 and you used to stand watch during DSET, so you know what you're talking about." So I did that, but on both ships. But yet at the same time, I thought Ashland. Once the Japanese got to the Ashland, I mean, it was awesome. So
yep.
I enjoyed it.
I'm
So
telling you, I say that to people often. Ships in Japan and Seventh Fleet are made better because of SRF and of course our sailors, and that we just operate them so much and they get really wore in good, as long as the crew is taking good care of the ship. Now, if the crew doesn't take good care of the ship, it's going to go to hell because no matter how many Japanese SRF dudes there are, that's not enough. It's going to be a lot, right?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
the crew has got to do their job. The crew has got to take ownership of the boat and and make it work. Okay, so when you look back on your time on Ashland and Tortuga, how was that being a part of an afloat Chiefs mess?
So I tell you what, so it was definitely different between a shore base Chiefs mess because you're spread out, right? When you're, afloat, Chiefs mess, you don't go anywhere, but you are always on deployment out there. I thought we were tight together. So we were really close. There was a lot of good friends that, to this day I still stay in touch with. Um, and you knew everything about them. They knew everything about you and families and that kind of stuff. So we were close. So I said, there's nothing like at sea Chiefs mess.
Yeah,
It was good to go. So I
for
really
sure.
enjoyed that. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was my favorite too, man. A short Chiefs message just aren't the same energy because you don't have so much stuff holding you together, right? You can all just go home and walk away. But on the ship, we've got so many things. We've got these inspections that we
Yeah.
all have got to depend on each other for, and we got to make sure the duty section work, right? We've all got to get qualified watch stations. We've got to learn how to make the duty section function so that we can operate in these ports and at home. And yeah, that was my favorite part of the Navy, brother. Being a part of a ship chief's mess, whether it was an aircraft carrier or an LSD, really didn't matter. They both brought the same energy, right? Um, Much different
Correct.
than
Yeah.
shore duty for sure. So after Ashland, uh, when you did you pick up senior chief on Ashland?
No, I picked it up as soon as I checked into CFA, Yokosuka Security.
Okay,
I checked the board, and then I think I had like 6 months as a chief in Yokosuka Security. I was a Knights chief, and then we rotated section chief. Then I picked up senior chief right away after 6 months in Yokosuka. Yeah.
okay. So you went from Sasebo to Yoko, back to back FDNF tours, and was Yokosuka Is that a sea duty for you as well, even though you were going to security forces?
Yeah, it was at the time. Yeah, yes, it was. So that's how we had it. So anything overseas was C back then. Uh,
Okay.
at the time that I did that, and then I went there, picked up senior chief. Yeah.
When you went to Yokosuka, did you go there as like just to be a landside chief petty officer, or what was your billet supposed to be? Like ops chief, or do you remember?
Section chief is what it said.
Section
So
chief.
just
Okay.
basically how they say it is just like, section chief or something like
Yep.
that. So you know that, and you know that you're gonna have to do. Eventually, they had CNIC was coming out with this FEP thing and all this stuff. So
Mhm.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to a section. I like to lead sailors. I like to be in it all. So there's nothing better than to go to section and learn,
Yeah.
to be there with when I say learn, it almost, because they made you do the PQS again of everything. It
Right.
was a reiteration of, to ensure that, because your sailors are going through it, so you go through it, and then you're much more better in at the end.
So
Mhm.
when you were at Misawa, did you work just for Naval Security Forces, or was there a CNIC then?
So it was CNIC, but yet it wasn't those inspections weren't big like that. Region
Mhm.
came out, they looked at you. When they look at you, it was just more of like, hey, you should do this, this, and this. Let me see your watch bills, like that. But
Mm.
it wasn't like it is right now.
What it
So
became, yeah. I was told by a lot of the NSF people that back in the old days, they were their own thing. Like the SECO was like the CO of security forces, and they had their own chain of command. And then when CNIC stood up and they got put underneath the base CO, there because there was always a lot of friction, it felt like, between the installation commanding officer and the security officer, right?
yeah, but
And
in 2005, I remember Region coming out. Different secos from the region would come out to Misawa all the time, and so I think
right,
they were in charge. But this is 2005, so I
right.
remember in 2005.
Okay.
But yeah,
So when you got to Yokosuka and now you're a CNIC installation, and this is like 2015, right?
yep, yep,
Yeah. So like 2015, and I remember hearing all the bells and whistles of CNIC spinning up their FET programs. The SWOs got involved, right? The SWOs got
yeah,
involved. They wanted to run a base like a ship because ships have
yeah,
FEP, so why not shore bases, right? Why not shore
yeah,
installations? And it's a lot of stress because
yeah.
there's a lot of moving parts. And in Yokosuka, you had Japanese as well, right?
Oh yeah, so you had to, ensure like their unions were good to go, and then you had to talk to the liaison who communicated to them, and sometimes they were bickering about standing certain patrols. But we didn't just have the base; um, Negishi was still open when I got there, and then Akago, of
Hmm.
course. And so eventually, I was part of the crew that kind of closed Negishi, but it was just staggered. Like certain stuff became to get pulled out of there. But we still stood watch there, is what I should say. It was
Mm,
closed, but we still stood watch down there once
yeah.
everything we pulled out of there. So yeah.
Okay. And then you get there, you make senior chief. How many senior chiefs were in Yokosuka?
So at the time there was two, Mary McQuain and then
Mm,
Amanda Davis, and then Mary McQuain left, and then Amanda then fleeted up to be the DLCPO, and then I was the ops LCPO. So
okay.
that's basically how that went for a while. And then Amanda made command master chief, and then or command senior chief, and then then I went up to be the DLCPO because at the time Dave Aguilera was over in Akago, and he let the senior chief run it. So he said he, would rather just stay out there, and so that's what happened.
Sure, why not, right? I'd rather let the senior chief run it too.
Yeah, I mean, and then I was going to a lot of those meetings, like the big meetings that you guys are there. Warren would take me to a couple meetings, and then
Yep.
I would have to speak on security's behalf and just different stuff like that. So it was grooming me up. Yeah, so it was good.
Well, I did the same thing with my senior chief for security forces as well, because honestly, I wanted the CMCs to know that if they had a problem with naval security forces, they could contact the senior enlisted leader for security forces. Because number one, we were together, we were boys. But number two, I'm
Yeah,
just going to call him anyway, bro. So if you,
and
I'm
that,
not
and
going to be offended if you can call my guy. You
yeah,
know.
and that's what it was. I mean, more or less of, eventually they were going direct to me, and instead of, because at times, I mean, how do you get it? It's like shooting the messenger.
Mhm.
Hey, this happened. Like, no, that's not what happened. So,
Yeah.
it's, it was a tough job to be a base CMC and to be a base CO. I mean, and you have the largest installation overseas. So, I could just imagine you were faced with that in Guam too. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was. I would I would hear some of the stuff, and I'm just like, wow, like. And at that time, the alcohol was running rampant. We were on restrictions in Yokosuka.
I
We
remember.
were doing breathalyzers outbound, inbound, different roadblocks, all throughout. And I would get calls in the middle of the night. Why are you guys doing this or this? Because I just didn't, wake up one day and say, "Hey, let's do this." This is
No.
an admiral. You know,
Well, and people don't
actually,
understand. You
it
guys,
was what it was.
yeah, CNFJ. Or
Yeah,
you guys also, people don't understand is you guys make a plan. People make plans to do it strategically. The CO signs off on it. Not everybody knows it. And it's just like doing your analysis, bro. It's just how it is. If you're not
yeah,
drinking and driving, you probably don't got nothing to worry about, dog.
exactly.
Right? I mean,
And yeah, so that's
that's it,
that's
right?
the nature of it.
Yeah. Oh no, I understand 1,000%, man. And having to field those phone calls. And how was that having Warren as a CMC and he was also a former MA?
It was great, but
I bet.
every now and then, I'd always say, "Would you forget? Did you forget?" Like, but yet, he worked for a tough captain, Captain Kim at the time. So and I get it, but eventually, you just got to explain yourself and
Yeah.
just explain it, and but I think that time it was trying times about the alcohol. That was like a big thing. But yet it was good
Always.
to
Yeah.
have him as an prior MA, in my corner on something. So,
Well,
but
and the
then a lot of the
alcohol
times,
thing, yeah, the
yeah,
alcohol thing's not always Yokosuka though either, right? We would get affected by Okinawa stuff, right? Remember when that kid stole that truck in Okinawa and or was driving a government vehicle, whatever it was, and it just all hell broke loose throughout the whole country, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah, it's not just yeah, it wasn't just Yokosuka, but Yokosuka would feel it because a lot of the high level leadership lived there. And if it wasn't being done right in Yokosuka, then it would feel like, well, they're not following the rules or whatever. So after Yokosuka, did you and were you done? Were you tired of being overseas? Did you want to get back to California?
I wanted to stay in Japan. I tried
Okay.
very hard to be in Japan. I want to say that I had orders back to an NACC command, Guam,
Mm,
to Rivron,
hmm.
at the time. So at the time, they come out with the security, all the stuff, uh, or the screening, and so I had to go get screened for what was it, colorblind or something like that. And when I was at NECC command or the Riveron before, that was never an issue. None of that stuff was ever anything. So I guess I found
Hmm.
out that I was colorblind. So I guess it was
Oh my
BUMED
gosh.
non-waiverable.
Ooh.
Yeah. So BUMED non-waiverable. So then basically I went back into the detailer pool, and the detailer is like, "Hey man, I got Diego Garcia. How about that?" And I was like, "Okay." So I took Diego Garcia, and my wife and my youngest kid went back to San Diego.
Oh, okay. So because I know there's a way you could have kept him in Yokosuka for that year too, right? You could have done some sort of
No, I
a
did everything. I did every paperwork. I knew the Seventh Fleet, the all
yeah.
those like I wrote everybody. I even wrote United States, Japan, or the people in Yokota. I had Captain Williams.
Uh,
Maybe he was there when you were there, but anyways,
I think I remember that. I think I remember you working on that packet actually,
I was
trying to
working
get
with
that done.
I was working with Snyder,
Uh-huh.
Steve.
Yep.
Um, I was like, look, like I was trying to
Yeah.
keep them. We had not had anything established in the States, and so my wife and my kid at the school and all that stuff.
Yeah,
So
it just makes
but there
sense.
was right, there was no like visa way to do it. So the stuff that made
Mm.
sense, it didn't make sense to they just kept saying the visa thing. So when I got out to Diego Garcia, I got to talk to Captain Williams, I think his name was, from Region, and he said, "Yeah, man, like I worked your issue. I did everything I could. Couldn't do it. How's your family?" And they were in San Diego, so you know,
And
but
then
everything
Diego
works out,
Garcia.
man.
Yeah. So how did you like Diego Garcia?
I loved it. It was my favorite favorite set of orders. And it was at a wild time. I get there, uh the guy who I'm relieving picks me up and says, "Hey bro, we'll do our turnover right now. Like I can't be in security anymore." I was just like, "Wow." And so ended up me taking over right away, wondering like what's going on. The next morning, Seco pulls me aside and says, "Hey man, you're now the DLCPO." That was less than 10 hours of getting off the plane. So
Mm.
um, I checked in with the CO and CMC that were in Japan. So Warren called me up. This is before I got to Diego Garcia. I was on leave. I had just checked out. And Warren says, "Hey man, your CMC and your new CMC and CO are here going through the course that all region guys go before they assume command. They
Mm.
come out and they meet. So come over, meet the captain and meet the CMC." So I go and I introduce myself and I see him, and the captain at the time says, "Hey man, as soon as you check in, you're gonna go with me to Okinawa and we're gonna observe a FEP. CNIC FEP. Okinawa has their scheduled, so we're gonna go through a FEP when you're here. So I don't want to fail, and I think if you get started early, you know what we're gonna do." So ever since that, I was hitting it running, and we ended up, you know, I took over as the Seco for some unfortunate reasons. They made me the Seco, and then I went through FEP. We passed our FEP, and then like a couple months later, I transferred. So yeah, it was a wild time. We worked hard, but we played hard.
Sounds like it, man. I mean, I guess there was probably limited distractions for the guys though, right? I mean, ultimately, it's like being on deployment for a year, right? You're not you're there, you're living there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's no families there, and there's the British and you guys, right?
So at the time, yeah, at the time, I mean, the British relationship was it was like British law enforcement and us. We didn't get along.
Mm, okay.
But eventually, but that's a place that it happens. Sometimes they'll get along, then the next group they don't, and then the next group they get along. So, but it was some pretty cool times. I mean, we got to learn about. I got to go have tea with their chief of police, on many of Fridays. Um, the British proper way, to drink tea and stuff like that. So that
Right,
part was
right.
cool. And just going through the CNIC FEP, I mean, we worked hard, and we weren't going to fail. So that's something that my team understood, and then we did it, and eventually
Awesome.
it paid off. It paid off. Yeah.
Awesome. And then after Diego Garcia, so hold on. Where you were getting the orders to Diego Garcia, was that the detailer was like trying to like was it because you were trying to get the MESG orders to Guam and they fell through because of your color blindness? Then you got slammed with Diego Garcia? Or was it
Yep,
like, hey bro,
I
give me
got
a solid
slammed.
take? You got slammed. Okay.
Yeah,
Um Okay, so then after Diego Garcia, because well, the 12-month orders, as soon as you land, you're like negotiating immediately, pretty much, right?
yeah,
Were you getting a good opportunity to have choice selection of orders after that, or were they just kind of telling you because as a senior chief, there's only so many places to go, right?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so the detailer was like, "Hey, man, you're gonna be uncomfortable. You probably have to go to Virginia." And I was like,
Mm,
"Wow." I was like, "That makes no sense." But you tell me I'm going to Virginia, we're going to Virginia. I told my wife, make plans to go to Virginia. I mean, she has a friend that's over there, so that's what we were
How
set. I was gonna go to Virginia, and so I
how
applied
many?
everything Virginia.
Okay, how many years did you have in
Didn't
the Navy around that point?
like 23.
Okay, did you ever think about applying for command senior chief with your background?
So I did, and I applied. I applied.
Okay,
So, and I went through the board. I did, you know, Toby, Howitt was there. Um, so yeah, I mean, I did that. I did that
okay.
from Diego Garcia in, I think after I did it twice. And then I didn't do it the third time because I would have had to ask for a waiver or something.
Mm,
And I probably could have done the waiver. But I don't know. At that time, I was just like,
kind of,
whatever. So,
yeah, I get that.
a-
Okay.
and
So when you wanted to go to, you said you were willing to go to Virginia, and
yeah,
that's what.
and I applied at everything Virginia my first month. And then the detailer was like, hey man, I didn't select you anything because your family's in San Diego, so I think you should go to San Diego. And I was like, okay, cool. My household goods are there, my family's there. I said, but I really want to go to SEA to be an FA in Rhode Island because I had saw that they needed FAs at the time in Rhode Island to SEA because I was already a graduate. So I was
Mhm,
like, I think I can make a difference. I want to go back there. And he's like, hey man, he was like, but all your household goods are here. He's like, I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna give you NCIS San Diego. And I was like, okay, NCIS San Diego is in our ladder. And so I always follow the ladder, you know.
mhm.
So I chose NCIS Stat San Diego. So that's where I went. And
And was that like CID kind of a duty where you're working plain clothes with NCIS, or how does that work?
not at all. So it was basically you did a lot of ship assessments, you did port assessments, airfield assessments, hotel assessments, a lot of travel. We called it mission. And let's say Seventh Fleet, they go to Kuantan, Malaysia, or Malet, or something like that. So we would go out and we would create the import security plan, or we would look at just different stuff, and then we would create basically a document that the COs and SECOs can go on the high side to base off their security plan. So we did that. We would publish it in our name and all that, and it would be on the high side. We did
Okay.
also training. We trained the fleet, or trained like NSF members. We train foreign militaries. So I got my instructor, and then I got my MTS. I went to Federal Law Enforcement Training Center to become a federal law enforcement instructor.
Wow.
So I did all that. Yeah.
Sounds like a very beneficial opportunity.
Very. It really sets you up for if you want to go that route when you retire. But I still had a lot of stuff in me to make Master Chief and to fill in that role. But I was at I was the Command DAPA. I was going to Command DAPA school, and I was done and I was in my car on 32nd Street, and all of a sudden my left side went and stopped. Like I, I was like that. I had like a
Mhm.
minor stroke, and I woke up in the ER. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Thank
So
God you
it
weren't
kind of set.
driving.
I was driving. So I was driving. And I kind of came to and then like I somehow maneuvered into the medical parking lot,
Okay.
and then eventually I ended up at Balboa, and they said, hey, you had a stroke, a minor stroke. They couldn't figure out what was going on, so I was admitted, and then eventually I had a hole in the heart, which everybody's has a hole in the heart where you're born, and it just gradually closes as we get older. I
Mhm.
guess mine never did, and the only way you find out is if stuff like that happens. So, I had a surgery. This happened September 19th of 2019. So I had a surgery in December, and then the surgery, it was just like I have a mesh deal right here, just like Iron Man, right there.
Right.
Uh, and so basically, the command, because I was in NTIS, and they worked with me. They were great, man. But the
Mhm.
thing of it is medical never put me limb to. I was on blood
Mm.
thinners. I did a lot of stuff. But I worked my butt off to get back to go on mission, to get qualified again, other quals. I did what I had to do, and I eventually ended up going on more missions and trying to make Master Chief. And eventually, COVID happened. I got to talk to the CO of NCIS, and then I said, I really need to make Master Chief, and I want to put it in 1306. So I had to speak to her before I could put it in 1306. So um, she approved it, and then I got orders to. I was supposed to the Tripoli, and so then I went to the Tripoli. Yeah,
So you terminate shore duty early to go to the Tripoli to be the security LCPO on board Tripoli.
yeah, yep,
Is that a 9
and
billet?
No, so the guy, it's an 8 billet, but the Master Chief was the guy that was there was a Master Chief, so he made
Okay.
there. So a lot of the Master Chiefs in my rate said, "Hey, man, NTIS isn't gonna cut it." I was like, "Yeah, but all my other stuff, look at all the stuff I did, but it is what it is, and I just
Yeah.
know I had to do something." So I bailed out, and after 24 months, and then I went to the Tripoli, and I went to Tripoli. We deployed early to 7th Fleet because eventually it became, now it's over in Sasebo, the Tripoli, changed with America.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the Tripoli, it has a well deck, right? It's not the ship that doesn't have a well deck, or does it have no well
Does
deck?
not have a well deck.
Does not have a well deck. So it's the forward deployed LHD with no well deck. It's
They
crazy, isn't
call
it?
it the Lightning Carrier. The Lightning Carrier.
Oh, because it carries the Joint Strike Fighters.
The F 35s. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How much different was the Tripoli than the Tortuga and the Ashland?
Because the crew was mainly San Diego based, it
Mhm.
was a lot different. No 7th Fleet experience. Um, but I, stepped up and helped the CMC with some stuff because I had, 7th Fleet experience. So, different ports. I
Mhm.
remember still had contacts.
Right.
So in that part, that was my. I love to be in Japan, so I was at my game. Once I was back in Japan, so I got to help and assist CMC, just different ports. We pulled into Iwakuni, which never pulled into a Marine Corps port, but yet it's a Marine
Mhm.
Corps port, so you had to do the Marine Corps rules. It wasn't a Navy
Yeah.
controlled port, so there's just different
Right.
things,
Yeah.
different. K9's gonna search, bags. They do a drug sweep and they do a bomb sweep. So you know what I mean, and that pisses off surface or SWO COs. So
Right.
just different stuff like that, and it and then just the Chiefs mess, not a lot of Seven Fleet sailors. So when you're over, they don't understand what it's like to be in Japan again. So, or, and why do we have to do this? Why is there, COVID was there, just different stuff, the mask. So we were on
Yeah.
deployment wearing masks in Liberty ports. At least we hit ports.
Hmm.
But I still had a lot of contacts in Sasebo. I still had a lot of contacts in Yokosuka. So we hit every port twice. And then we hit Singapore. We hit Manila twice. We hit Hobart, Tasmania, which became my favorite port in the Navy.
Oh
And
wow.
then Sydney. And so I was advanced party for Manila, Hobart, and Sydney. So, I flew beforehand, and it was really fun. And to get that aspect of it, because I did that when I was at NCIS, and so I had experience. To set up the ECP, to set up all that stuff, to be a liaison for the ship,
Yeah.
to talk to different law enforcement and emergency services so that the ship is better prepared when they pull into port.
So did you end up being the DLCPO, or was there still an MACM while you were there?
No, he left as soon as I
Okay.
got there, and I became the DLCPO. And yeah, I became the DLCPO there. And
How how was the SECO when you were there? Did you have a good SECO that you got along with there?
so
Mm,
the SECO, we got along on deployment.
yeah.
But he was an MAC before, for maybe since breakfast, and then he became a SECO. So he eventually he got scared, and just we had a CO that would always scare the JOs that he's gonna fire him. So he said, "Just don't get me fired," but he would always say it, and it just wasn't. It was all the time.
Yeah.
So and then we did what we had to do, and eventually I made a decision. Hey, call it quits. Called the wife and said, "Hey, I dropped my paperwork to retire." So I did it with 10 months left in the Navy. So it was kind of like it caught me off guard. I wasn't gonna. And I just
Mhm.
said, yeah, I need to do this. And I think, for my wife at the time, I think, she wanted me home, and my youngest kid, there was just, I think that part, I needed to do something. So,
Yeah,
so that's what happened. We pulled back into port after deployment. And like 3, 4 months later, I retired.
I think it's always a little bit bittersweet when we get to the end of our careers, man, because it's I tell people if they would let us stay in the United States Navy up until we're 60 years old, as long as we're healthy and fit and able to do all the things regardless of rank, you might keep a lot of us around for a long time. But when you tell us we have to get out by a certain point, regardless of our fitness levels, our ability, like here you were, you had this hole in your
Right.
heart, you
Yeah.
got it
Yeah.
fixed,
That's totally
you
true.
got
Yeah.
healthy again just to get back out there. But no matter what, if you're not making 26, 28 years, they're going to tell you got to get out anyway. So then you start, I'm going to be honest with you, bro. I retired from the Navy at 25 years, and I could have done another 10 years in the Navy, 15 years in the Navy, but I was just my own reasons as well, right? I had plenty of my own reasons, but I was also like, I'd much rather do this under my own terms by someone else's terms. And and I get that, man, for sure. So when you were looking at uh, life after retirement, can you hear me? John? Hey, are you there? Hey, are you there? Oh no. All right, everybody. Hey, it is Gary here once again. Unfortunately, technical difficulties in life. We just work through these things. John was disconnected, but I got him via text message. I did want to pass on to everybody that after his retirement from the United States Navy, he was able to go become a training specialist there in San Diego. He is a contractor now, not a government employee, but he's a contractor working for different special warfare forces out there in San Diego, doing training. I really want to thank him for taking the time to join me on the show and to just share his story with all of us and to tell us about the things him and his family went through. A very impressive story, and I thank him for his time. And I hope you all enjoyed listening to it. And thank you very much for listening to us here on Words from the Wise. All right, y'all. Talk to you later. Bye.
And I know I was born for this. I know I was born for this. Don't care for the critics, my words are like physics, a force that they can't stop. They just don't get it, I think they forget I'm not done till I'm on top. I know